Shortly after graduation, I very quickly started orienting my career around Atlassian ecosystem. I was super lucky to join Atlassian more or less a year after I graduated. I was quite unhappy with my previous job, and it was in a company that wasn't particularly well known, very different league from the one that I used to work back then. I thought, yeah, let me apply. Maybe I'm gonna be happy there. And after joining that company, this was Spartus that back then was contracting for Atlassian, I started working on products that were enabling other companies to customize Jira. I think everybody knows Jira, right? It's used by all the tech companies around the world. And that project that was basically supposed to allow people to build these customizations in the cloud took me to where I am right now. I later built a company that was building such customizations and extensions to Jira. And now here I am. I'm doing very similar things for Appfire in a slightly different capacity, as I'm trying to, rather than build products directly, build something that we call platform in Appfire. And this platform is supposed to empower all 100 plus applications that we have in Appfire to be built easily. And right now, it's not only Atlassian ecosystem. We have more. We are supporting more platforms. It's Slack, it's Microsoft Azure DevOps, it's Salesforce and Monday.com. So what I think is really unique about what we are doing here is that we are very close to the customers. Still, though we have all those apps, we keep majority of our backlog are new features, or generally speaking, new work that is benefiting customers. And only something like 25% of what we are doing relates to general technical maintenance of those applications. And being that close to the customers, working directly with what they require is something really unique. There are a couple of things here. I think nothing will ever replace interaction with customers. So this is something that our product management team is doing. We are used by 50+% of Fortune 500 companies. And our product managers over the years managed to build really good relationship with those customers. And we keep listening to what do they require and what can make our products better. But besides, we also have we've been investing a lot into various growth initiatives. So using various tooling and services that let us analyze what's happening in the applications, what makes the customers use them, what's lacking, how can we onboard our customers easier. And since we have all those applications, we are also looking into something like cross-application integration, as we see that in certain situations, customers who have multiple of our applications could get additional value if we combine them and somehow turn them into a single product offering. Yeah. So we rather try to refrain from building our own solutions when there are very good solutions out there on the market. And that applies to how we approach platform, that applies how we approach broad cloud development, security, and also growth initiatives. Yeah, that's more or less accurate. This is an average that comes from all the products that we have. That can, of course, vary team by team. There can be teams where it's 10%. There can be teams where it's significantly, where it's a little bit above 25%. But on average, yes, that's correct. And that comes from the platform that we are building. So for the common problems that our developers have, I think like one of the most obvious common problems that developers have to solve is how to deploy an app. We actually create like recipes or software that can be used across the teams. So instead of having all the
all the teams do certain work, we are centralizing that, and this is what we call a platform. If you imagine that there is a certain thing that, I don't know, like let's say you need to upgrade a certificate, right? Because of some 0-day. You could either do this 110 times in each of our cloud apps, or you could actually do it once. And if you do it 110 times, then this particular action, I don't know how much that's gonna take. It's some arbitrary example that I just made up. Let's say it takes a day, right? That's like 110 days. And each of this action actually keeps accumulating, and it's a little bit pointless to be doing this hard work. And there are many examples of that. The first thing that happens when you install applications either from monday.com or from Azure DevOps, or this is an Atlassian application, you receive something that's called installation hook. So you need to handle a certain payload that contains information about a secret that you use in order to communicate with the host platform, whether this is Monday or Atlassian. It's almost the same thing. You receive like a various installations, such as what was the installation time, who was the person that installed that. I don't know whether this is still the case, but this is like a certain thing that all of the applications have to implement. And again, you can either do this 110 times, or you can do it just once. You can have a single central store where we keep all the information about the installations. And then this not only saves you time, but we actually are talking about something that's better quality than if you kept doing this work multiple times. Because the nature of doing must-haves and just multiplying those must-haves across many teams and many products is that it's just usually done in a quick way. So you can actually get to these value-generating activities, such as working on the requirements from customers. Nobody really wants to spend half a year building a store where you keep information about your installations. You really want to do this as fast as possible and then implement what your customers are asking for. But then what that means is that this thing that has been built quickly, is this at the best quality? No, probably isn't, right? So we are leaning towards centralized services that are doing that. I think that we do quite okay here. I would love us to be in a situation that we can say we only use AWS. Unfortunately, that's not the case because of many reasons, mostly how a lot of apps have been built and the background of each of the teams that build those apps. We actually have a lot of different platform providers. So we have GCP, we have Azure DevOps, we have AWS. I know that we still use Heroku in some places, and we use DigitalOcean. So those are at least 5 that I know about. And there are probably some that I don't know about. But what we are doing in order to make it simpler for our development teams, so how we are structured at first is we have teams that are working on applications, and then we have those centralized teams that are building things such as platform or such as analytics, or we have a team that is coming up with security tooling and best practices around that. So what we want to do is we want to ensure that the teams that are building the applications, they spend as little time as necessary on maintenance of the apps. And for them, in order to make cloud development easy, we have 2 offerings. One is we make it easy for apps to be serverless. So to basically write a little bit of backend, but they also are mostly front-end heavy. So package all their static resources and get them deployed to something like AWS Lambda. And we have a single recipe that works quite well for many of our teams. They can I think it won't take them more than a day to get everything shipped to cloud. And then the second solution that we have for teams that have more advanced requirements for the infrastructure is around Kubernetes. So if the team has advanced needs for computing, they are running some background tasks, they are doing some lengthy synchronizations, they have multiple services, we're mostly using Kubernetes in those cases. And we also have something like a recipe. Okay, this is a tooling that lets you easily create a Kubernetes cluster with all the required tooling such as security scanning, observability, etc. So you can get all of that in a kube cluster and easily deploy to AWS. Yeah, so the platform is for our teams to ship faster without doing the repetitive work, but those internal teams are serving customers. My assumption is that majority of our teams are building applications with React, but there are also some teams that are using Vue, and there are some teams that are using Angular. So again, each product is built by separate team. Some teams actually own multiple products, but let's just for simplification assume that teams that are building those products are mostly separate, and they need to be provided tooling to do the job quickly in an easy way. So what we do for them is we have a set of technologies actually that also supports their good experience on the front end. We have a team that is building a design system. We have a team that is building a set of shared components, and we are also planning soon to start working on common infrastructure for front-end testing. We are thinking about, okay, what else can we actually give to them that is going to make front-end higher quality, better looking, and easier to build. And for the design system, there is a single design system, but there are some varieties of this design system. As let's think about Monday versus Jira applications. Atlassian applications look different from Monday.com applications. Those ecosystems actually want to differentiate themselves from each other. So we need to take this into the account, but at the same time, we want to make the components reusable across the ecosystems. So when you are building an application for Monday or when you are building an application for Jira, those applications should be using the same components, but they should be styled somehow differently, depending on which ecosystem are we talking about. We have something called QA Center of Excellence. So our developers get support from QA with regards to defining what are the testing scenarios. But then it also depends a little bit on the team, because in some of the teams, QAs are more coding. In some of the teams, QAs are more into defining what are the right test cases. But essentially, each team needs to ensure that their product has a right quality, right? But when we have a set of shared components and set of shared services, what we can do is we can ensure that those services and those components, they are actually shipped with the right quality. So what application teams need to test is how they integrated those components into their product, rather than testing whether those components actually work at all, right? So that already saves them a lot of effort. And then what's also really powerful when you actually start reusing things across many applications is you can start creating a common set of testing utilities, right? A login page is the same for all the applications, so there is no need for each application to come up with a method how to log into Jira and how to navigate into their application. That's the same across all applications. The color, the styling, the spacing, again, this comes from the design token, so there is no need for the teams to actually test whether this works. Some components, even more advanced components, again, are shared and they are tested component level. So I think this is already something that is helping the development teams a lot. This is all about the trust, right? I think all of our customers prefer to have less features, but more secure product that they can trust. Nowadays, nobody can really afford to have something like a data leakage. So we need to take security really seriously. And it's not super easy to do with so many products, as certain security practices, again, need to be applied to all the products. So we have a centralized team
that is helping us with all the security practices. And those security practices start at the code level, right? We have scanning of our code that tell us whether we have any vulnerabilities that were brought either through a third-party dependencies, or maybe there is something simple such as accepting a parameter and compiling a regex on that parameter without any earlier validation. Snyk and some other tooling helps us a lot. We also are doing something like threat modeling, where our principal and senior developers are guiding the team to identify what are the threats that we have in our applications and how could we possibly mitigate them. Those are usually discussions at a little bit more advanced level, where we are trying to proactively identify what makes the design of our applications less secure than what we intend to have. And then, of course, like the findings that we have get into the backlog and we address them. And the next level of security is all the tooling that is connected to our cloud environment and actually ensures that our cloud environment is scanned regularly. And again, we keep addressing these vulnerabilities rather well. I saw how we went down from some number into a much lower number right now. I can't say that it happened overnight, but because a lot of things are centralized, right? Like you can make one fix in the platform and that fix all of a sudden is going to take away multiple vulnerabilities in all the applications. It goes better than expected. I think this is something that requires practice. And since we are in this business for 19 years, we mostly know how to integrate with those applications. But also those platforms such as Atlassian, Slack, etc., they require us and they also help us to meet a certain security standards. For instance, Atlassian employs a product called Backroute, where there are multiple pen testers that are regularly going over our product and they are trying to exploit vulnerabilities in the product, and then they report them back to us so we can address them before they leak out. And we're also doing our own penetration testing, right? Like we have recently been launching a product in the platform that is actually at the very foundation of our security. And we have done penetration testing of that product before it was launched. And this is something that is a common practice in Appfire. I have never heard about teams that are competing with each other. And I don't really think this is the culture that we want to have, right? Each team is responsible for quite important applications. And I think this is already enough work for them to, focus on how to build a good product that meets requirements from customers, that I don't think they really need to worry about other teams. And when you have a look at those teams, the way we are structured by a category of a product. So we have a different team that is building publishing applications and a different team that is building agile applications. I don't think that they can really compete with each other that much because they are really solving different challenges. So culture aside, if they wanted to compete with each other, I don't know what would be the common denominator that we would find that would allow us to compete with each other. I think this isn't something that we really want to have here. One moment when we actually do have a little bit of a competition is we have this event that happens 3 times a year that's called Ignite. This is our hackathon. So this is an event during which teams are allowed to form again. We gather ourselves around ideas. We first pitch those ideas, and then after the ideas are pitched, we build teams around them. And we have a week, once, let's say every 4 months, to work on those ideas, after which we actually are doing a round of internal voting during which we decide which of those ideas and which of the implementation of the ideas was the best. And there are some awards that are given to the teams that did the best job here.
We mix teams. People are free to sign up for any idea that they like. We have some threshold. I think it's 3 developers is the minimum in order to start working on an idea, and that varies really whether these are going to be the people from the same team. Of course, it's very natural when you talk with people on your team what are the ideas that you're going to be working on to just join them. But we have seen quite a lot of cross-team pollination during these hackathons. And again, I would actually refrain from saying that teams compete against each other, because teams don't really compete, right? They have a week of hacking, and during that week they can build good things, they can compete with each other, or they can build bad things. And I think what I have seen so far is mostly teams really focusing on how to build something that is going to solve a certain problem. And if that goes well, then I think you don't really need to think about competition. The votes, the recognition for job well done is just going to come. There is 400 of us in engineering, so the topics can really touch almost anything. If there is, for instance, something that really pains you, that it has never gotten to the product, and you feel like this is something you would like to work on, and there is big enough group of people around you to work with you on that, and you're able to get this done, yes, that can completely get into the product, and I know that it has already happened. Thank you very much as well. It was a real pleasure to be able to talk about that.